After the Second World War, we saw two global superpowers emerge, the US and the Soviet Union. Both countries had fought together against Nazi Germany in World War II.
After the Japanese Empire surrendered, the two nations were to decide what to do with Japan's territories, one being Korea.
In the August of 1945, the USA and the Soviet Union split Korea along the 38th parallel. America supported the South, Soviets backed the North.
The South's anti-communist leader Syngman Rhee was happy to be allied with the U.S. government. The North's communist dictator Kim Il-sung was proud of the more enthusiastic support of the Soviets.
The two countries' leaders weren't content to stay on each side of the parallel. Threatened by the spread of communism, the U.S. military took action on the North, and soon, in 1950, the Korean War started. The Korean War saw many advancements in healthcare. The M.A.S.H, Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, was a very large and helpful innovation.
Having learned from World War II that transporting wounded soldiers to rear hospitals was highly inefficient in reducing mortality rate, the Army established M.A.S.H units near front lines to supply mobile and flexible military medical care.
As Cole said, they were placed near front lines so divisional medics could transfer the wounded to them fast and efficiently.
This innovation led to the casualty rate from World War II compared to the Korean War dropped by 8.1%. They were first manned by 14 doctors, 12 nurses, and 1 war officer, 2 medical service corps, and 97 enlisted troops.
Although they only had 60 beds, up to 200 patients could be admitted daily. Only soldiers who were combat ready in 3 to 10 days were to go to these units.
With so many wounded people, M.A.S.H units expanded up to 200 beds.
Mobility was perhaps the most demanding challenge. M.A.S.H units were required to be packed up and ready to move at 6 hours' notice. Upon reaching a destination, they needed to be fully operational within 4 hours.
The work for the nurses assigned of these posts was difficult. Intravena must be set daily for blood transfusions, plasma, and surgeries.
A common injury that was treated in these units was disembowelment by an anti-personnel mine, also known as a bouncing Betty. This mine launches up about 3 feet and explodes. This destroyed several lower extremities.
Transporting blood and blood banks were not new for the Korean War, but it was the Korean War that saw the adoption of plastic bags to transporting blood.
And before storing the blood had a tendency to break easily, and they took up a lot of space.
There were many amazing doctors and surgeons in these units, and one of them is Mary Reed. Mary Reed was born in Pittsburgh, PA on April 9, 1927. Although she grew up poor during a Great Depression, she speaks fondly of her time playing with the neighborhood kids.
After graduating from high school, she enrolled in the Nurses Cadet Corps, which was housed in the Western Pennsylvania Hospital of Nursing. After graduating in 1948, she volunteered to go to Korea and serve as a nurse.
Her M.A.S.H was in Busan. The unit moved many times because of the imminent danger of being attacked with how close it was to the front lines.
Another great surgeon from these incredible units was Robert L. Manuel. Rob was the son of a Sicilian immigrant and grew up in Cicero and Berlin. He graduated from Loyola University and the Chicago Medical School.
Also, he served in the 1st M.A.S.H unit as the U.S. Army, however, had many unfortunate operations because of the stress of the title. He quote, "The work was also emotionally challenging. I remember one particular case where as a young soldier had been badly injured. Myself, Ray, Captain Ray Chrissy, and Major Merton White worked on him for hours. We'd opened his chest where his heart just stopped beating. We did everything we did to keep him alive, including injecting blood directly in his aorta and massaging his heart. I still remember the feeling of holding his heart in my hand. We were able to bring him back, and I remember joking with him a few days later. He seemed to be doing well, and I really thought he was going to make it, but his kidneys ultimately failed, and we lost him. Like so many of the GIs, he was a nice kid whose life ended way too early."
The Army helicopters initially deployed in Korea were the Bell H-13 Suiks and the Hiller H-23 Raven.
The 2nd Helicopter Detachment arrived in theater in November 1950 with 4 Suiks aircraft. Among the early missions assigned to the unit were utility, wirelaying, liaison, and reconnaissance missions.
In November 1952, the Army organized its first purely medical aviation unit, the 47th Medical Detachment Air Ambulance.
In November 1952, the Army organized its first purely medical aviation until the 47th Medical Detachment, air ambulance.
As you can see, medical advancements like the M.A.S.H and the helicopters not only helped medics in various hospitals, but gave the wounded a chance of staying alive. The brave and determined souls that were lost saving our troops is what makes this a triumphant tragedy.